Grande. Welcome into the Better Baseball MLB DFS Playbook podcast here, giving you a first look at Monday's 7-game main slate. James, after weeks and weeks of games starting at 6:40 and DraftKings ignoring those games for the main slate, not so much here on Monday. We have the 6:40 games included, 7 games on the main slate here on DraftKings.
Yeah, not so fast, my friends. 640 games. You ask for it, you shall receive. It's an interesting slate. Not a lot of elite pitching talent. I'd say Aaron Nola is definitely the guy that tops the list in that aspect. But yeah, I mean, interesting game, interesting slate. I don't know if this is going to be a trend where we get 640 games. I think they
It
looked
was for a
at
little bit last year, if you remember.
Yeah, it was. I'm wondering if they looked at things like, all right, well, we got just a few games on this main slate, so let's throw in the 640 games to kind of make it
Sure.
more appealing because it would have been a 5-game slate without it. So we'll see. We'll see when we go to Tuesday when it's inevitably a double-digit amount of games if that's included as well.
Yeah, I missed what they did. It was 2 weeks ago. They basically gave you the main slate for every day.
Yep.
And actually, they have that. Tuesday, 6-6. It's going to be 12 games, 7:05.
Okay.
So, and Friday will also just be 7:05. So, no 640 games Tuesday and Friday, but they do have it on the Monday slate there. James, why don't we go take a look over in Las Vegas here and see what we got going on for totals and spreads?
Sure. When we're looking at some spreads, Aaron Nola looks like he is the biggest favorite on the money line. That him and his team taking on the Detroit Tigers, and Philadelphia's at home -215 there. Braxton Garrett and the Miami Marlins are -180 favorites at home against Kansas City Royals, who are using an opener with Michael Myers, not the villain, pitching in relief. The Michael Myers, the pitcher that almost was part of a perfect
City's
game.
actually being the villain by having him be a long reliever.
Correct. Correct. His team is cast as the villain here. Johan Oviedo -190 against JP Sears and the Oakland Athletics. Pittsburgh at home -190, big favorites. Alek Manoah is actually a favorite at home, which is surprising to everybody in the world. -135.
Again, like I said last slate when he was a favorite, it's more a favorite of Toronto.
Yes, of
being
Toronto.
a favorite and not Manoah being a favorite here. And that didn't even pan out because he ended up getting lit up by Milwaukee in that game.
Blake Snell and his San Diego Padres in the late night window, -165 over on DraftKings. And then when we go over to the over-unders, we have 9 implied runs in Detroit, Philly, 9.5 implied runs in Houston, Toronto, 9.5 implied in Milwaukee, Cincinnati. I think that's interesting because this is the first time in a while, at least that I remember, that we have Great American in our back pocket here. 9.5 implied runs in St. Louis, Texas. So we have 3 games with 9.5 implied runs and 4 with 9 or more. We do not have a over/under for Kansas City, Miami. No sports books that I see have that game listed. I'll do a little refresh here to see if that remains the case. But I only see DraftKings with even the money line for 8 implied runs in that game. So not great, Bob.
Yeah, not great at all. No weather that I'm looking at right now. We'll be able to update everybody when we go live at 5 o'clock Eastern with any updated weather reports that we may have to be watching out for. But at least as of now, given our first look here, nothing too much going on when it comes to the weather here. James, before we dive into tonight's slate, quick recap of Friday's show. Do a little new highlights segment here. Let everybody know what they could have gotten into if they tuned in. We had the Fade Zach Wheeler clip out there on Twitter sphere. We're talking about the Nationals and their recent success against right-handed pitching, and Wheeler as the third highest rostered starter on the slate. Did not do too well there. Nationals came through. Pirates and Nationals are 2 of the contrarian stacks that we talked about there. It took a little bit, but the Pirates just ended up coming through big time, with the lone exception of Brian Reynolds. He was the most expensive player on that team. Only got a hit by pitch, but pretty much everybody else in that lineup came through big time. And then we were big on the mid-tier pitching there. John Gray, Bailey Ober came up, pitched strong. Both unfortunately got lifted early too John Gray, after 82 pitches, 7 shutout, and Bailey Ober got lifted under, was it 76 pitches?
Yeah, it was
Through
insane.
6 shutout for whatever reason there against Cleveland. So mid-tier pitching that we were in on came through for us. So all in all, if you tuned into the stream, tuned into the podcast, you got that advice there, and hopefully it helped you guys find success. And hopefully on today's show, and then when we go live at 5 o'clock Eastern, you'll all be able to kind of tune into what we're talking about and find some similar success again.
Yeah. And let's get into it where, thank you, by the way, for getting me off Zach Wheeler. That's where I'll stand. That's where I'll end there.
Listen, the sample sizes don't always come through, as you talk about. There were rare occasions where you're looking at everything. All the numbers add up, right? You can only use the information that is in front of you, and then ultimately the players have to go out there and play the game. I tweeted a lot this weekend about the awful pitching that was just throwing shutout duels on everybody here this weekend. Jordan Lyles out there, 8 strikeouts through 4 2/3. Rich Hill today was shutting down the Cardinals. But there are days where you look at the numbers and you're like, you know what? If this comes through, we're in big time trouble.
Right.
And the Nats were just killing righties over the last 2 weeks, and that held strong. So let's dump into today's slate here. We'll start off at the pitching position as we normally do, and taking a look at some of the top guys here. James, you talk about on this slate, 7 games, not a lot of great pitching. Top guys up over 8K are the top 5 starters. Aaron Nola, as you mentioned, against Detroit, one of the biggest favorites on the board. Blake Snell against the Cubs. Julio Teheran against the Reds, and Garrett against against Kansas City. Martin Perez against St. Louis. So your guys up over $8,000. If you're picking your top pitcher for today's slate, who are we going with today, man?
Top pitcher is going to be Aaron Nola. I know he's been largely struggling this year, but we know Detroit's offense is struggling worse. They ranked 29th in OPS against right-handed pitching, 28th or tied for 27th in WOBA. So Aaron Nola, the top dog. And I'd probably go down to Braxton Garrett after that. I do like Blake Snell a little bit at home. He has been pitching much better of late. Last 2 starts, 11 innings, 1 earned run, and 13 strikeouts over that span. We know Blake Snell is a guy who has notoriously been better at home this year. More fantasy points per game at home, despite a higher ERA. So Snell's fine, but I like Braxton Garrett, who's coming off a really good start in his last outing against San Diego, a team that hits lefties well. The thing I like about Braxton Garrett, if you look over his last 5 starts, are the strikeouts. Excluding his start in Coors, 7, 8, 8, 6 strikeouts in the other 4 games over in the last 5 games. And even in that game of Coors, where he only had 3 strikeouts, only 2 earned runs. In 4 straight starts, Braxton Garrett has allowed 2 earned runs or less. Not a lot of power allowed, a lot of ground balls. So I'm going to Braxton Garrett. I know Kansas City does fare decently well against left-handed pitching, 744 team OPS. But they're tied for 12th in terms of strikeout rate. So a team that is striking out at a pretty high clip against lefties. Braxton Garrett's the second guy for me up here.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Listen, he got off to a really bad start. But really, if you look at it, just Atlanta, right? Atlanta was the one that did the big damage against him. 11 earned, ballooned all of his numbers there. Yep. The poor guy, they left him out there to get hammered for 14.
I mean, they just leave him out there, right? You're just sorry, buddy, but
right. you're just saving the bullpen today. You're going to go out there. Yep. But like you mentioned, the strikeout numbers, they were also pretty down. 3, 3, 3 in those 3 starts in a row, but Ks are up. I'd like to see the pitch count a little bit better, like you talking about there. Pitched 79 pitches, 82, 76, 82. While the guy's pitching, pretty lights out. So San Francisco, 6 1/3, 1 hit gets pulled at 76 pitches. That's certainly a little bit of a tough look here, but I'm with you there. I like Nola and Garrett as well as the top guys. And again, this is a slate where there's not a lot of great pitching. So after those guys who I think are in good spots, you're kind of throwing some darts here. If you're a believer in Teheran, the way he's been pitching could go there. If you think that Bielak can shut down Toronto because Toronto's offense has disappeared at times, sure, maybe. Oviedo's got Oakland, but we saw how well that worked out the other day. So For me, I'm with you there. If I'm going for value play today, though, I think the biggest story here is Abbott being called up for Cincinnati here, going up against the Brewers. Listen, what do we talk all season long? Lefties against the Brewers. That's the pitching matchup that we wanted. And this dude was an absolute strikeout machine at AAA, 54 strikeouts in 38 innings against a team that strikes out the most in baseball against left-handed pitching here. And it's another $4,000 pitcher there, James. And we've had some up and down success with these 4K pitchers on the season. But, the only worry I would have about this is that it's in Cincinnati. Other than that, everything looks pretty good here for this kid.
I would say that is the biggest worry, that it's in Cincy. I think the strikeouts, Milwaukee still leads baseball in strikeouts by nearly 2%. Actually, I lied. 2.1%. They are higher than any other team in baseball in terms of strikeout rate. They are still the worst OPS in baseball, despite having the great Darren Ruff as their leadoff hitter against lefties at times. I do think that this is a spot where I'm willing to take a shot on a guy with a massive strikeout rate against a team with a massive strikeout ceiling.
Yep.
So yes. Now, on a slate with better pitchers, I probably don't go here. On a slate with this pitching, I am definitely go. If I'm playing a 3 max, I have 2 shares of him, no doubt. If I'm playing a 20 max, I might have close to 50% because let's face it, there's more offenses that I want to use than
Right.
I want to play the Padres.
We hate almost every pitcher on this slate, so we must love all the offenses, right?
Right. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting to some Abbott and just taking a shot there. Like you said, this has worked. This hasn't worked. This is definitely a spot that I'm willing to take a shot on, despite the subpar pitching environment in Cincinnati.
Yep, 100%. Give me your fade starter on the slate.
I don't. We like JP Sears here. We are JP Sears fans. And he actually has been pitching well. The issue with JP Sears this year has just been the home runs and the power. And the one thing we know about Pittsburgh is they have a lot of power from the right side of the plate. Guys like Connor Joe and Rodolfo Castro and Cabrian Hayes and Carlos Santana are all significantly better from the right side of the plate. And so I'm not going to test my JP Sears shares here.
I'm going to once again throw my hat here and fade Julio Teheran. The man has been fantastic through his 2 starts on the year. I can certainly give him his flowers, right? He's allowed just 1 earned run over 11 innings during that stretch here. Only 5 strikeouts in 11 innings, though. 8 hits allowed. He's getting pretty lucky, in my opinion, here. If you look on his ERA, it is 0.82. His expected ERA is 3.41. So again, 3.41 still good, but it's not 0.82. His xFIP's 5.38. So again, we're looking at some numbers here. You can kind of cherry pick if you want. There's some room for some regression here. He's got a 5.99 Sierra, he's got a 5.51 Sierra. In Great American Ballpark, there's some guys on Cincinnati that can hit the ball in that ballpark. So I'm going to fade Julio Teheran today.
Yeah, we've thought the regression's been coming for a while. So, since the first start.
Right. We do not. We've never been a believer. Right. I'll continue to not be a believer. So.
Well, the never say never, John. We were once Julio Teheran fans. Shout out to Julio Teheran.
The man didn't strike out a single Blue Jay and he gave up an unearned run. What is going on?
Fair.
So yeah, not for me on this one. I think eventually that comes to roost and they get to him. Let's go to catcher, man. Talk to me on this slate. Where's your top catcher coming from?
Jonah Heim found out Mitch Garver is coming back and said, "Oh man, I got to start hitting again." Right. And he has done so last 3 games. Had 5 RBIs on Sunday, had 2 more on Saturday. Guy has just been turned into a very just good hitter. 14 RBIs over his last 10 games overall. This offense is better than any other offense in baseball at current moment. They have back-to-back double-digit runs. They face Adam Wainwright, who, let's face it, he's washed. It just is what it is. He's washed. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. He's old, and every great pitcher, probably hangs on for a few too many years. It's Adam Wainwright's time, and now he has to face the hottest offense in baseball. So I would get to Jonah Heim, and then under Jonah Heim. Well, who's your top? Well,
Yeah,
who's
I'm
your
agreeing with
top?
you. I'm
Who's
going both Texas catchers. If whoever's in the
okay?
lineup,
Yep, Mitch Garver. Yeah.
Hi,
Okay.
but Garver came back and he homered in his first game back. And he's got 2 hits in both. So like they play them both, right? Like they DH
Right.
Garver and they start Heim. So like
Yep.
I'm good playing both catchers here. That's fine for me as a top
Yeah.
guy. And then I know probably Gary Sanchez, right? In the mid tier is our
Yep.
next guy here, value wise.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably be getting Padres. Kyle Hendricks is a guy that's always just pitched better at home. And he also is just not missing bats. And I think the thing about Gary Sanchez, the issues for quite a while is the fact that he strikes out a lot. So I'm gonna get to Sanchez. Kyle Hendricks has a xFIP 2 runs higher than his ERA. He has an expected ERA 3 runs higher than his ERA. 23% ground ball rate for Kyle Hendricks. For like it's 37% line drive rate, 40% fly ball rate.
Yeah.
Everything is being hit harder in the air. And he's just getting lucky. So I'm going to go Sanchez for sure in this tier.
Yeah, listen, again, the catcher is such a small player pool that it's hard to really sit there and like disagree with, a lot of the guys that you're mentioning here. Kisner homer today against Rich Hill, used $2,800 for possible value play. And then we played the Pirates catcher the other day, didn't we as well? Who was it
Well,
there?
Jan Gomes is 2,500. You're burying the lead here,
That's
John.
well, yes.
Jan Gomes gets a
Jan
lefty.
Gomes versus a lefty, only $2,500. I agree with you. That also is a pretty strong value play. We know the power for him against southpaws is ridiculous. So good value play there. My fade of the day, he's a top price catcher. It's Salvi Perez. He just doesn't hit left-handed pitching. Just doesn't do it. 220 average, 340 slug on the year against left-handed pitching. For a guy that has 12 home runs, 11 of them have come against righties, 571 slug versus righties, 340 slug against left-handed pitching. So I'm out on Salvi Perez here.
My fade's going to be Wilson Contreras, and I'm happy that he homered for my FSGA team on Sunday. Thank you, Wilson, or Saturday rather. But he's hitting under 100 over his last 10 games, and there's no reason he's $4,700.
Right.
So I will not be spending up on Wilson
Yep,
Contreras.
I agree with you. Move on over to first base here, James. Give me your top first baseman of the day.
Top first baseman of the day is going to be Paul Goldschmidt. Gets a lefty. Goldie just continues to be awesome. 333 over his last 10 games. We're getting some power out of him recently as well. And Martin Perez. Look, there was reason to believe Martin Perez was going to be bad last year, and it just never happened. He's kind of been bad this year. I mean, 2 times in his last 5 starts, he's allowed 6 or more earned runs. 3 times in his last 5 starts, he hasn't pitched more than 5 innings and has allowed 4 or more earned runs. He allowed multi-home run games 3 times this year. Doesn't miss bats. Like, I like Paul Goldschmidt to mash against Martin Perez.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Goldie was my top guy as well. 327 average on the year against left-handed pitching as well. Only one of his 10 homers against southpaws on the year, but again, we talk about Martin Perez and the quality of pitcher that he's been. I think that Paul Goldschmidt obviously can homer off anybody in baseball, and just the fact that he is just getting the ball in play at such a high clip. For me, he was the top guy on my board. If we're looking at some value options, more so of a mid-tier play, I do like Spencer Steer, but you mentioned earlier Connor Joe against lefties. I think those are 2 guys that if you're not looking to spend up, you can look to put into your lineup today.
Yeah, Spencer Steer's been a guy that you've gone to the well a lot lately, and he's been very good. Raking right now.
2 solo bases randomly the other day against Milwaukee. So
even flashed a little speed the other day. And yeah, I mean, Connor Joe, multi-position eligible against lefties this year. 316 average, 4 home runs, 444 WOBA. So give me Connor Joe, Spencer Steer in the mid tier for sure.
100%. Give me your value play of the day.
Value play of the day at first base, Brendan Belt has been pretty good of late. Homered on Sunday, 290 average over his last 10. sneaky like 794 OPS kind of out of the clouds for Brandon Belt.
Starting to belt a little
He
bit,
was,
you know?
yeah, he start. Ooh, I like that. I like that out of you, John.
Thanks.
Um, Getting on base a lot, almost a 400 OBP on the year now. Dude, they hit him fourth. Like
Dude,
I
there
think
are multiple streams this year where we said Brandon Belt shouldn't be in baseball. So,
right, right, yeah,
and laughing that they were hitting him fourth, but they're obviously laughing right now with the way he's playing. So, get him
yep,
in Toronto. I like it. You talk about Belak a lot with the power, the home runs that he can give up here. So,
yep.
I like that value play call as well. So, give me your fade. Who's your fade first baseman of the day?
Um, I would say Rowdy Telez against a lefty. I'm not really looking at lefty splits. He's been struggling regardless. No home runs over his last 10 games, 222 average. I know it's in Cincinnati, so we might see some ownership heading Milwaukee's way. I will not be getting on the Rowdy Telez train in this lefty.
I'm going against Vladdy here again. The Blue Jays offense just like doesn't, and him especially, just not they're not doing anything. So
I'm like indifferent about it because he did homer on Sunday, and Belak is getting crushed by righties. So I'm like torn on the Vladdy thing. I'm torn on the Blue Jays in general because they are such a righty heavy lineup.
yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at some of their recent run totals here. Sure, they hung six today. They won 2-1, 3-0, 3-1, lost 4-2. So like outside of today's game, they haven't scored more than 3 earned runs in 4 games, right? And then they scored 7 against the Brewers, but only 3 before that, right? They're just, you know,
And then 20 before
yeah,
that.
right, right. So since the 20 run game, right, they've scored 3 runs, 3 runs, 3 runs, 7 runs, 3 runs, 7 runs. Great. 2, 3, 3, 2, 6. So they've scored 3 or less more than they've scored more than 3 over the last 10
Right.
games. So they're not facing great teams here. Brewers,
Yeah.
Twins, like Mets. I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah. So Vladdy's a fade for me. If he comes through against Belak or Toronto or Houston in general, like fine. But that offense just leaves a lot to be desired right now.
Agreed.
Let's go on over to second base then. For me, when it comes to top play at second base today, I'm going with Tommy Edman. I know he's not the top price guy, but they actually let him off against the lefty today, and shock to shock, 2 hits, a double, and 3 at bats, had a walk as well, 10 fantasy points. If they're going to commit to leading this guy off against lefties, which they should, I don't know why they're not. When all the numbers scream, this guy absolutely hammers left-handed pitching, and you're a team
Right.
that, for the most part, has kind of sucked against left-handed pitching this year. Like, why would you not give a guy in Tommy Edman that's hitting 362 with a 574 slug and a 930 OPS the opportunity to lead off? So they let him off today. He had a good game. I'm hoping they'll lead him off again. Give me Tommy Edman at 4,200 as my favorite second baseman.
Love that. And I'm also not going to go to the top, even though Marcus Simeon is screaming at me, and so is Jonathan India. I'm going to go Rodolfo Castro, who's now a second baseman only. And he is hitting 367 with 5 home runs and a 475 WOBA against left-handed pitching. So Rodolfo Castro probably going to hit fifth against a lefty is my favorite second baseman.
Love that. Yeah, Castro is one of my favorite value plays of the day. So we're kind of in lockstep there. Give me a fade at second base for you today.
Fade is gonna be Nolan Gorman. Just hasn't hit lefties well. Another lefty that I know he homered on Saturday. He's been struggling in general. Too many strikeouts lately. I know Martin Perez isn't really exactly a guy that misses bats. But I'm not paying 5,200 for a guy who hasn't hit
Yeah,
lefties
I'm
this year.
fading Owen Miller here today. Bats cooled down over the last 10 after that like crazy hot start that he had,
Yep.
hitting just 243 with a 270 slug over the last 10. Is still adding speed, so there's still some fantasy value there. 3 stolen bases over the last 10
Yep.
games. So we're talking about Abbott. We're talking about the strikeout upside that he has, and the Brewers in general just not really hitting lefties all that well. Miller's one of the few exceptions there, but again, a fade for me on this slate at $3,800. James, third base. Talk to me, man. Top play.
Top play over at third base. Kind of a toss up between Josh Jung and Nolan Arenado. I think depending on which stack you roll with is who you go with. But Josh Jung cannot be stopped. Much like you can just say that about Texas offense in general. Another 12 runs scored on Sunday, but Jung in the middle of that, 3 for 4, 2 runs, a home run, a walk, or a RBI and a walk rather. Hitting 410 with an 1100 OPS over his last 10. And we know Arenado. I know 219 over his last 10, so kind of brutal.
Yep.
So I'll go Josh Jung, but Arenado's still notoriously good against lefties.
Yeah, for me, it's Bregman here because I'm just not a believer in Manoah. And Bregman himself, 444 to 1600 OPS the last 10 games. So give me all the Alex Bregman that I can handle. My value play today is going to be Brian Hayes. We talked about lefties against for Hayes in Pittsburgh here. He's $4,100. That's going to be my value for the day. And then if I'm fading, I'm actually fading Nolan Arenado. So that's where I'm at 54. Where are you?
Fading Manny Machado, even though I love the Padres, guy just came back and still just hasn't done anything. So I'm like 50-50. Like I'm currently on the side of I'm fading Machado, but things could change based on come time live stream comes.
Yeah, I'm full on agreement with you there as well. Let's go to shortstop here and talk about our top play. It's Seager for me, $5,900, super expensive, yes. But 341,000 OPS, 3 homers, homered again here today. And again, we talked about Wainwright being a gas can.
Yeah, it's Seager. It's Witt against a lefty. It's Bichette, who is hitting everybody, and Bielak struggle against righties. And it's Matt McLean in the mid-tier, 47, who continues to hit 342 average on the year. And then the position falls off a cliff, and I want nothing to do with it.
That's where I'm at. I'm fading Trey Turner, and I don't have a value shortstop today. I don't think there's
no, I don't either.
I don't think there's a value shortstop play. Maybe if like Ezekiel Duran plays. He left he didn't play Sunday due to tightness. So like if he's in, sure, $2,900. Sad you have to play him and Seager if you're picking between the two, but that would probably be the option there. Top outfielder for me is going to be Yordan Alvarez. Again, I'm going all in on Alek Manoah.
Yep, no problem there. I like the top 3 names. I told you I'm in on San Diego, so Tatis is scorching hot right now. Would go Tatis, and we've talked about it ad nauseum with Soto against righties this year. Soto against the righties this year.
Yeah, I like all Astros outfielders really today. With Jolks is a really good value play. I think it's Story Ruiz, even though he slowed down a little bit. You look at the walks given up by Oviedo. If he is putting guys on base, Ruiz is going to run. So I like Jolks and Ruiz as some 2 value options on the slate today. But I think you can go Astros outfield today. I think you can go with the outfield there in San Diego, like you mentioned. I think there's some decent mid-tier plays on the slate.
Yeah, some value. I like Jordan Walker against Martin Perez, $3,200. 346 Woban and limited sample against lefties. Juan Yepez if he's cracks the lineup. Jesus Sanchez has been a guy who's raked before the injury, after the injury for Miami. So those would be 2 of my favorite values.
Sure, I agree with you 100%. James, let's start building a lineup here.
Yeah, let's build Aaron Nola.
Nola and Garrett, I imagine.
And no, Abbott, 4K.
Oh, Abbott, right. We need the money. 4K. We need the money. It's true. It's true. All right, Abbott's in. Catcher Heim.
Yep.
First baseman Goldschmidt.
Or we spend down to Connor Joe. But I'm okay going.
Let's see if we can fit Goldie with the 4K guy. Second baseman, I liked Edmund. Did you? And you like Castro?
Yeah.
How'd you go?
Ooh, is Edmund only? Yeah,
Edmund
we
the
can play
outfield.
both. We can play Edmund the outfield.
Castro's in there. Third base. We had. Let's see here. We had Hayes as value, and we had.
Yep.
What do we have for? Was it Jung was our top guy?
Yeah, Jung was definitely. Yeah,
let's do Hayes. I think we might need the money saved here.
Okay.
Shortstop, we like Seager.
Yep.
$3,900. I like Jolks as the value at 28. I guess it's $4,500. So what was your other plug?
You wanted to play Edmund. I had Jordan Walker plugged.
Okay, I'll do Walker. The Walker works. Jordan Walker 31. 6K for an outfield to finish it off, or 100 off. I'm gonna go down to Garver here. There we go. Okay. There it is. Nola, Abbott, Garver, Goldschmidt, Castro, Hayes, Seager, Jolks, Walker, Alvarez. We got 2 Houston, 2 St. Louis, 2 Texas, 2 Pittsburgh for the offense there. James and I will be back live at 5 o'clock Eastern. Find us in the Discord. Check out the playbook when it goes live. James Grande will be on that. Go to fanslam.com/allpro. Promo code MLB50. Become an all-pro member. Get access to all of our premium content and premium Discord. James and I will talk to you all later.